Review.
Are you tired? We're almost there, buddy.
White Knight Chronicles has sprawling vistas featuring a variety of exotic climates, oversized monsters that look a tad freaky but still surprisingly endearing, and towering knights who use their swords of justice to bring peace to a land in trouble. It sounds like a pretty awesome setting for an epic quest, but the experience plummets into the depths of banality after sinking a few hours into this adventure. There is no hook to lure you in, so although everything seems just standing on the surface, a little prodding below the surface reveals a jarring lack of depth. It is still fun to explore this fantastical world, if only to lay eyes on the colorful creatures that inhabit it. But because it has such a predictable story and sleepy combat, White Knight Chronicles struggles to establish an identity. Princess Cisna remained mute for a decade, by her own choosing. And, just as luck would have it, when she finally decides to speak again, she's whisked away by a band of ancient curmudgeons. Your goal is to rescue the now talkative princess and bring happiness back to your sad kingdom. The story itself isn't particularly original, but it's the manner in which it is told that makes it hard to pay attention to. The characters are trite and uninteresting, dutifully fulfilling their chosen archetypes without any semblance of flair to liven up the proceedings. When a character you thought you knew reveals their true identity, it's hard to even bat an eye because there's no emotional connection to these events or the world at large.
So, he's the man in charge.
Terrible voice acting doesn't help the matter either, making the long tail drag on endlessly. The story may be forgettable, but at least the combat is a bit more interesting, at least for a while. Combat is entirely turn-based, although you can walk around the battlefield at your leisure, getting close to the next enemy you want to attack while leaving as much distance as possible between you and the 2-story tall troll. There are a number of different spells and weapons to master on your quest, so you can mold your character into whatever sort of killing machine you desire. It can be a lot of fun to string combos together, launching enemies high in the air with a sure strike from your sword or an explosive arrow shot. And falling a particularly giant monster certainly has its appeal. There are a couple issues with the fighting though. First of all, it's incredibly easy. As long as each person in your party learns a basic healing spell, your enemies will be hard-pressed to kill you. It makes sense that a pack of spiders or lone knight won't be able to kill these legendary heroes, but bosses topple to the ground just as easily, removing any sort of tension from these supposedly epic battles. Second, the fights are downright tedious. Sure, there isn't any threat of dying, but fights often drag on forever because enemy life bars are so large. You can transform into an overpowered knight to speed things up, but this power is not always available, meaning you will often have to slog through long and grueling battles that tax your patience, but never your skill. Despite the shallow combat, fighting is still fun because of the wide assortment of odd-looking creatures you do battle with. From colorful Cerberuses glaring over your tiny party, to gargantuan trolls who really hate being shot in their nether regions, the world is populated with all sorts of wacky-looking critters that are a pleasure to stare at while you slice them down with your uncaring swords. The world itself is also vibrant and inviting, making it enticing to explore every cranny in a bustling town or the nooks of a dank dungeon. It's a shame that you will often be forced to poke around every inch of these environments as you attempt to navigate the labyrinth layouts. All too often, the lands you must cross are laid out like an intricate maze, and it's not much fun trying to figure out the way to freedom.
Do not forget about me!
Looping back over the same ground over and over again is anything but fun, especially when enemies keep popping into view that you've already killed your first time through. While each new place you visit is certainly a treat to look at when you first arrive, after you finally reach the end of these exhausting stretches, you'll be thankful that you don't have to see them ever again. You can finish the main quest in about 30 hours, but there's still more enemies to raid when you're done. You unlock lots of different side missions during the course of the adventure, and you can tackle these either by your lonesome or online with up to 3 friends. However, there isn't much variety in these extra objectives, so you just take down the same enemies in the same environments as you did during your main quest, only with a time limit tacked on. Even more puzzling, the titular knight is nowhere to be found. You play as your created character in these quests, and though your character can use weapons and magic with the best of them, they cannot transform into a huge knight, removing much of the appeal of battle. There is a certain charm for those who want to level up their characters all the way, and earn the best weapons and armor, but lack of combat depth and objective variety ultimately limits the appeal. Outside of combat, there isn't much to do in White Knight Chronicles. There is a city building minigame, but it doesn't offer enough tantalizing rewards to make it worthwhile for long. You erect shops and buildings, recruit residents from cities around the world, and force them to procure rare items for your forging needs. but it takes so much money to extract any benefit from your little suburb that it's ultimately not worth the slightly more powerful sword or sturdy shield that you get for your troubles. And the requirements needed to recruit worthwhile residents are so high that you will lose interest in the game long before you have a bustling community of your own. White Knight Chronicles is certainly a pretty game, but it lacks the pull great RPGs have. The combat is serviceable but lacks depth. The story is predictable yawn fest, and the beautiful dungeons are too easy to get lost in. There are tons of additional side quests, but even the lure of tackling oversized monsters in groups is not strong enough to overshadow the various problems with the game. White Knight Chronicles is a good-looking game that never establishes a unique personality.
Sorry, folks. The castle delivery comes first.